Hi guys, today we are joined by Mr. Uzair Garrett, founding partner at Disrupt and CEO at PureVPN. It is an immense pleasure to have you on board with us. Today we shall discuss your achievements and contributions in venture building as a service, specifically in the cloud and cybersecurity sector. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Mr. Garrett, please give us an insight into your journey into the world of tech and cybersecurity, especially with regards to both Disrupt and PureVPN.
First of all, thank you so much for having me today, Bilal. Yeah, so I was born in Karachi, Pakistan, and graduated from Energy University here. We were brought up in basically a big joint family of 35 people. My grandfather immigrated from India, and led by my grandfather. Basically, like it was very well knit family. One bank account, one kitchen, and that's what we call a real school, I would say, because I
Yeah.
think competency is super important. But I think what's more important, is your inner fabric, your fiber, that builds your character. And living in that environment, kind of gave us, those timeless values. Ethics is super important in business. Higher calling, how would you prefer group interest over individual mindsets? Our parents somehow managed to give us, the exposure, into, through book reading, storytelling, into how great our history has been, and how great of a nation we are destined to be. How great thinkers our leaders were, how visionary our nation's founders were, right? And why we must be self-reliant and grow indigenous capabilities. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, as in going through the education here, kind of it felt like a big disconnect, right? So, on the one hand, we're looking at this great nation destined to achieve great things, relying on itself, On the other hand, we are over glamorizing, this exodus to the West, so looking at the institutions here, and personally going through that basically. So that didn't add up in your mind. And when you're like young, you kind of like articulate it that well, but there you can sense that something is not adding up, in these two very disconnected and so opposing forces, right? So as a rational observer, I think living through all this, it created a natural fertile ground in our minds, basically to act, right, to bring change. And coming from like a patriotic background, I think internet came as a messiah, as a savior.
Yeah.
It was still new back in 2007 when we got started, and it kind of like offered the freedom. I think it offered the liberation to go and build your own world, sort of like. It was that level playing field, I would say, that basically frees you from the clutches of being confined to one space, or all the disadvantages of being in a developing nation, and go and find the Abe Hayat, I think, for your people. And that's
Yeah.
where SN we found our small world. That's what we call Disrupt.com. It was founded back in 2007. And at Disrupt.com, we leverage technology, mostly open source, to solve global problems faced by billions of people, and still using our indigenous capabilities offered by the nation. Um, so basically, we are using, these indigenous capabilities and playing our part, slowly and gradually, building this local ecosystem. And I think we have replicated this, a success quite a few times over, like you mentioned, cybersecurity to cloud platforms, to Web3, which is coming up, to media, to fintech platforms, and Disrupt.com, I think, is the venture builder, the force behind all these different ventures, offering human resource, experience, and knowledge trapped within the ecosystem.
Well, sir, your vision and efforts in leveraging technology to drive change on a global scale and in order to uplift communities are commendable. You have always been keen to rekindle the fire of purpose among high potential young professionals and help them climb the ladder of success by accelerating their growth. Please walk us through the success that you have attained over the years while also focusing on everything that you have also subsidized back to the community.
Fundamentally, we see business as a powerful vehicle to drive societal change.
Yeah.
A vehicle that basically will bring, the long-awaited glory to the nation and the region. And there's a fundamental lens, that we use at the top level to basically drive it drives all decision making from all the way top, deciding the board of advisors, bringing the people on board who see eye to eye, with this mission, all the way to the grassroots level. I think where you're talking about running established academies, right, where we are taking fresh graduates into our fold from local universities and rigorously giving them this training, the exposure, right, to bring them up to speed with the skills, and attitude to serve, the global audiences. Those academies range from engineering to growth to support, and consistently over the last decade or so, we have been churning thousands of those tech capable resources back into society. We also run an always on interns program. Basically every department that we have almost have all the time interns, right? So basically that keeps on churning the talent for not just ourselves but for the entire ecosystem. So that's on the talent side. On the exposure and history side, we have carefully crafted a culture where we give exposure to our people by setting book clubs, by arranging mentors and speaker sessions from those developed ecosystems, and most importantly, the foreign trips. So one of our team, 100 plus people in Turkey right now, as part of that, exposing them basically to the environment that we think will help rekindle that urge towards excellence, towards that. On the wealth side, wealth creation side has where masses we think can be lifted to affluences. We introduced what we call the stock options program, which is very familiar in the first world, pioneered in Silicon Valley, I guess, and which is groundbreaking for the country. I think being among the first few companies to offer that. And with the exit of the venture, this you mentioned, the Cloudways, I'm pleased to tell you that we were able to churn more than 2 dozen millionaires. So that's something that really excites us. That what we saw as a dream for the bringing masses, towards the affluence, and now those families have access to an elevated lifestyle, I would think, to infect others in the circle to believe and inshallah follow their path. And I think finally for the overall ecosystem, the exit itself that we had, right, it was more than a decade worth of work. But the exit itself, I think, open up a realm of new possibilities, for the entire ecosystem. Now more than ever, people are believers, right, that such exits can not only possible from being in the West or somewhere else, but right here using indigenous people capabilities, you can build world-class, tech companies,
I'm sure you are aware of the recent surge and emergence in the tech sector of Pakistan and how PakLaunch has offered a significant platform to bridge this gap. What do you think about PakLaunch's incredible commitment to the tech sector? And also, how much potential do you see for the development of Pakistani tech sector?
So we strongly resonate with PakLaunch based on what I just described a while ago. I watched it, very closely over, the year and a half, and how it grew from, nothing to this massive force, and out of sheer determination of Hadi Fahad and, very few people. Pushing through the challenges, setbacks, amid the global macro conditions and whatnot. And anything and everything that can go wrong actually went wrong. But I was observing these folks, they just don't give up, right? So when I see PakLaunch's journey, it kind of resonates very well with what we believe in, our mission, and what it reminds me of our modus operandi, that no matter what, just keep pushing, and one day the success is going to come. And I personally take a lot of motivation from the PakLaunch story, and I really wish it to touch even successful potential. As for the potential essence that you asked, I think enough has been said about local market opportunities, and I agree. But I've been trying in my previous discussions and talks, trying to draw attention towards 100 times bigger opportunity. If we set our eyes upon solving global problems. So far, I think the market is too much aligned with solving the local problems, and the time will come. Obviously, the policies, the infrastructure will get better over the time, and definitely entrepreneurs are going to exit big. But I think only if we start looking at the global opportunity, that drastically changes everything. And I think Our nation is uniquely positioned because of the number of youth, the masses that we have. The English, language, that is also basically goes in our favor. If you look at the, comparable regions, Bangladesh, for example, Nepal, and all those regions, Middle East, for example, we are uniquely positioned, I think. And finally, I think the great brains that we have is so creative, right? So I think we should be looking at Samsung and Tata, I think, as our case studies, to try and replicate from here. And if we could do that, I think Pakistan is going to realize its potential, inshallah.
Perfect, sir. Sir, with this recent surge in acceptance in the IT industry, with all the businesses striving to make it to the very top, it would be lovely if you could just bestow upon them a word of advice or suggestion that would prove to be helpful to them.
Yeah, so my advice would be to think global and act local. I think so many great entrepreneurs I meet are working so hard, taking risks, but only if they start looking at the global audiences, their market size, their currency arbitrage, their margins would drastically increase. And I think what else can you wish for?
Sir, thank you so much for these valuable insights into your life and your achievements. This has truly been an insightful voyage. This is where we'll end this conversation. I'm certain that the suggestions you put forth will certainly be acting as a guiding light for us and the Park Launch team. Looking forward to see you at the Unconference. Thank you so much.